Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I remember my first encounter with anti-Semitism. I was in the 3rd grade, and another student in the class passed a note around the room saying, "I hate Ilana because she doesn't believe in Jesus. Sign here if you agree." I remember the teacher confiscating the note. I don't remember what the administration decided to do about it, although I'm sure it was appropriate. What I remember is the way that I felt. It was a combination of outrage and fear and shame and heartbreak. 37 years later, things have not improved. Last year, one of my own children had to endure a classmate stating his support for the German Reich in class. The school counselor responded by speaking to the student and informing the student's parent what was being said in the classroom. The counselor also offered to switch my child to a different class so they wouldn't need to be in the same room as this student. And I, through the counselor, extended an invitation to the child's family, inviting them to go with me, my treat, to the Dallas Holocaust and Human Rights Museum. They ignored the invitation, but they didn't refuse it, and who knows, perhaps it planted a seed in their mind. Maybe they will go one day. But again, I felt outrage, fear, shame, and heartbreak. I'm sure many of you can share your own stories about experiencing anti-Semitism. Some are out of ignorance, some are egregious, and some are downright frightening. Organizations like the Anti-Defamation League have reported for years now that anti-Semitism is on the rise, as are other forms of hate speech and hate crimes. Anti-Semitism is a threat, and it's growing. So how do we address such a serious problem? There is some wisdom in this week's Torah portion. Genesis chapter 44 is an interaction between primarily Joseph and Judah, but all of the brothers. Joseph has declared he's going to hold Benjamin hostage, and Judah is pleading on his family's behalf to let Benjamin go. Rav Kook has a commentary on this chapter, and he contrasts the two brothers, Joseph and Judah, and he says that they have lessons to offer our people. You see, Joseph had embraced Egyptian culture. He had turned himself outward. He had integrated himself into Egyptian society, and in doing so, he put himself in a position to protect the Egyptians during the famine, as well as the other nations under Egyptian rule. He was able to help people understand the value of an Israelite and what we have to bring to the global community. Judah, on the other hand, became the leader of his family. He was the one that his father and brothers listened to. He concentrated his efforts on continuing the legacy of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. For example, one midrash tells us that when the wagons came back to Canaan with all the gifts that were sent to Jacob, Judah burned them because the wagons were engraved with idolatrous symbols, and he said that they were not appropriate for an Israelite family. He used his influence to perpetuate tradition, albeit in a method that I don't recommend for any of us. The two men took different directions in their lives. In chapters 44 and 45, they're united. They come together again. Joseph and Judah lead all the brothers to embrace one another. And this reunion, according to Rav Kook, who is an Israeli rabbi who lived in the 19th and 20th centuries, according to Rav Kook, this reunion between these two brothers is about bringing together two aspects of the Jewish approach to life. And there's strength in uniting both Joseph's integration with the outside world and Judah's commitment to the traditions. What does Rav Kook's interpretation have to do with combating anti-Semitism? In order to combat it, we need to be both Joseph's and Judah's. I'll give an example from my own life of times that I've been a Joseph or a Judah. Here is one way I was like a Joseph. Some of you know I do a lot of work with the leadership of our city, and as such, I was invited this past summer as the school board was examining who should we hire as our next superintendent. They called together faith leaders from the community to ask our opinion about what we thought were the most important qualities and qualifications of our future superintendent. The meeting was heavily attended by evangelical Christians who were pushing to have more access to students to take their organizations onto the public school campuses and lay out their agenda. And because I'd worked on turning outward and integrating myself into the larger community, I was at the meeting, and I was able to lift my voice and say, Richardson's a very diverse community, and not all of us want Christianity in the public schools. And what's more, I said, Christianity is a very diverse religion, and I'm not sure all of our Christian neighbors and community members want their children experiencing evangelical Christianity at the schools, which then opened the space that my Christian colleagues who were not evangelical needed to voice their opinions as well. And here's the way that I'm like Judah, really supporting and teaching our tradition pretty much every day in everything I do. When I'm cultivating Jewish learning and Jewish pride, that too is a form of fighting anti-Semitism. Because when we live a full and happy Jewish life, we are combating anti-Semitism. No one is dictating the terms of our Judaism to us. The rise of anti-Semitism is alarming, and I do feel the need for the security measures our synagogue and the greater Jewish community have taken to protect ourselves. But the comfort I offer is that we are not helpless. We can all be Judahs and Josephs. Every time we speak up in the community against anti-Semitism, whether it's calling out a colleague on a microaggression or writing a letter to a representative in government, we are like Joseph, letting society know that we're a part of it and we deserve to be treated with equality and live in peace. And every time we celebrate being Jewish, in spite of the growing threat of anti-Semitism, we're like Judah. Through worship and life cycle, holidays and education, we declare that our tradition is strong. Am Yisrael Chai. Will anti-Semitism stop? No, it's been with us from the beginning. Do I feel afraid? Of course. Is there something we can do about it? Absolutely. So as we mark the beginning of 2023, perhaps you would like to commit yourself to taking on one action that honors the way of Joseph and one action that honors the way of Judah, because the Jewish people are counting on us. Shabbat Shalom.